If you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, even though the season didn't necessarily end the way you would have wanted to with that thrashing at the hands of the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game, you've got to feel optimistic about where your team is and where your team is heading going forward. I mean, here's a team that in the last 3 years, with Andrew Luck at the helm, has won 11 games each season. They've made the playoffs 3 consecutive years, won the AFC South the last 2 years, won a playoff game last season, won 2 playoff games this year. So it's like every year you could see things slowly coming together. Every year you could see this team taking a little bit of a step forward, another step towards the promised land. Improvements all the while. But then, if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, you have to start to wonder if history is repeating itself, where you have a young quarterback that your team is built around. You have one of the future faces of the National Football League. You most certainly have one of the young, up and coming elite quarterbacks in the National Football League. Instead of it being Peyton Manning, it's Andrew Luck this time. But the results seem the same. A team that finds a way to win double digit games in the regular season that ultimately comes up short against the Patriots come playoff time. The faces have changed somewhat on the Colts side, but the result ultimately stays the same. So if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, I guess you kind of have to wonder how you feel actually about this team, this organization, and their direction going forward. Now, most certainly after 2011, there were a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainty after Peyton Manning missed all of that season with the neck injury. The team totally bombs, has the floor fall out from under them, and they end up with the #1 overall pick. They get Andrew Luck. I mean, on the one hand, do you really miss Peyton Manning? The answer is no. You really don't. You're better off without him at this point in time because look at how many more years you're going to have Andrew Luck in the fold. However, with that said, it feels like Peyton Manning in certain ways because you have a young quarterback that can do a lot of great things, but his team ultimately seems to come up short, and most specifically against the New England Patriots. And part of the major problem for this Colts team is the simple fact that they just can't beat New England. It's that simple. In 2012, in Luck's rookie year, they lost to him 59-24. Last year, in the divisional round of the playoffs, they got steamrolled by him 43-22 as LeGarrette Blount ran on him for 4 touchdowns. Then this year in the regular season, they lost to him 42-20, and then turn around again in the championship game in Foxborough, and they got steamrolled 45-7. 45-7, and LeGarrette Blount went off on him again for over 130 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, not only are the Colts not close to the New England Patriots, they're actually getting farther away. They're scoring fewer points each and every time they face them. And that loss in the AFC Championship game, Deflategate or not, going against the Deflatriots, the bottom line is the Colts got steamrolled. The Patriots could have been playing with freaking weighted medicine balls or beach balls, and it wouldn't have mattered. They still would have dismantled Luck and the Colts. It's that simple. But 2014 still was a really good season for the Colts. Again, 11-5. They win the AFC South. They beat the Bengals in the wild card round. They dominate the Broncos in the divisional round in Mile High. And then, of course, they went on to get steamrolled in the championship game against the Patriots. You know, this is part of the process. This is sometimes how it goes. You're the new kid on the block. You've got the old guard, and it takes time before you figure out how to beat the old guard, and you take their throne, and you become the head dude in charge, so to speak. You know, and that's the big question for the Colts going into this offseason is, are they going to be able to take that next step? Are they going to be able to improve? You know, where do they need to fix what areas in order to be able to take that next step? Because it frankly looks like at this point in time that until they figure out a way to beat the New England Patriots and go through New England, that they're only going to get to a certain point, and then that's going to be the cutoff, similar as how it was with Peyton Manning during his time with Indianapolis. So how did this Colts season go in 2014? Well, offensively, they had pretty much what you would classify as an elite offense. They were 6th in the league in points scored, 3rd in total yards, 5th in time of possession. So they kept their defense off the field. They moved the ball very, very well, and they capitalized and scored a lot of points. That was even with a middle-of-the-road rushing attack and with a middle-of-the-road defense. You know, not a great defense, not a terrible defense, but a defense that oftentimes is more of a liability than an asset, even though you wouldn't have been able to know that with their first 2 playoff games where they faced a injured Bengals offense and a, frankly, beleaguered, injured Broncos offense as well. But they've got holes. They've got some major things to address this offseason, the Indianapolis Colts do. The first and foremost thing they have to do is they have to get Andrew Luck's extension done. They have to get him re-signed. They have to make that statement. They have to stand behind him, and they have to get that deal done. So that way they know what they're going to have committed to him for the next 5 to 6 seasons. So that way they know how they can piece together the rest of the roster around him. They've been able to go 3 years without having to pay him big time, huge money. Well, that time is over. They're going to have to get that contract done. You don't want that mess. You don't want that distraction. The quicker you do it, the better off it is for all parties involved. Then the real work's going to come from the draft and free agency and how this team improves. Grigson, the general manager in recent years, has a good reputation of being an ultimate closer when it comes to free agency, and that has helped the Colts get to a certain point. However, at the end of the day, if the Colts are going to achieve and maintain long-term success, they must be successful via the NFL draft like they were in 2012. They need more out of their draft classes. They need to flat out draft their future, not sign it from other teams. And when you look at the fact that they gave away the 2014 first-round pick they had for Trent Richardson, a deal that looks terrible for them and bad for the Browns as well, this is a Colts team that's got a lot of work to do. Even though they did go 11-5, they've been to the playoffs 3 straight years, won their division 2 times in a row, and was 1 game away from making it to Super Bowl 49. The first and foremost thing they have to do is they must find a running game. Ahmad Bradshaw is a nice role player, but he was injured, and he'll be pushing 30 here pretty soon. Trent Richardson might very well be done with the organization. Boom Herron is a nice role player, but a role player at that. The Colts need to find a guy that could be that feature back, that could be that bell cow, that could take a lot of that pressure off of Andrew Luck and help make the Colts a more multi-dimensional, well-balanced offense instead of being the pass-dominant attack that they've been over the past couple of years. The good thing for this Colts organization is whether it's in the first round, second round, third round, there is depth and talent at the running back position, and they will be able to find that guy if they're looking in the right places. But then they also need to fortify their defense, obviously. I mean, they got steamrolled again by the New England Patriots, showing you that there are both schematic and talent problems on that side of the ball that must be addressed, that must be fixed. And where they, in particular, really need to get tougher is up front. They need a real nose tackle, somebody that can kick Arthur Jones to the outside full-time, somebody that can be that guy that commands double teams, that demands attention, that takes up space. They need that guy. They also need help up front. While you've got Arthur Jones on one side at defensive end, you're going with guys like Ricky Jean-Francois and role players on the other side. They need more of an impact player at a defensive end in that 3-4 to go opposite of Arthur Jones. They have to fortify that front. They must fortify that front. And part of that front as well is the linebacker position, in particular on the inside. I could sit there and point to outside linebacker being a need, and I most certainly think it is. They may get Robert Mathis back in 2015 from injury, but what is that really going to mean, and how much is he really going to be able to contribute? But they most certainly need help inside at linebacker. Their lack of talent, their lack of athleticism there, their lack of strength there really showed in particular in that matchup against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. They must get better there. But their work's also not done on offense. They need to find somebody at wide receiver. Reggie Wayne may be done with the team. Are you going to bring back Hakeem Nicks? Dante Moncrief is nice. But again, he only showed bits and pieces. Is he a guy that you're really ready to take that next step with, or you think is ready to take that next step? They could use another big-time physical target, a real red zone target on the outside, so that way they have the freedom to line up T.Y. Hilton all over the place and cause matchup problems for all types of opposing defenses. The good thing for the Colts team in the organization is that they've got Andrew Luck. That helps a lot. When you've got that quarterback, man, a lot of other pieces fall into place. And the good thing for this team is that they're not that far away. It's just that they're really far away from the New England Patriots. And the funny thing is they might have to sit there and build themselves to be a team that might only be in the mix really in their current position for another 1 or 2 seasons at most. But that's what they must do. That is the measuring stick, and that is the gold standard. And in order for this Colts team to take this next step, they must do well this offseason, in particular in the NFL draft. They need to get tougher defensively up front, and they need to provide Andrew Luck some more help at the skill positions on offense, most especially in the backfield. Because you cannot roll into 2015 at this point with Trent Richardson as your starting or, frankly, even number 2 option at the running back position.